The idyllic tourist destination of Pahalgam in Kashmir was shattered by violence on April 22, 2025. A horrific terror attack claimed the lives of 26 Indian tourists, casting a dark shadow over the region. The attack, attributed to Pakistan-based terrorists, sent shockwaves through India and reignited long-standing tensions between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. The picturesque valley, once a symbol of tranquility, became a grim reminder of the volatile relationship between India and Pakistan. The attack in Pahalgam was not an isolated incident. It was a stark reminder of the persistent threat of terrorism emanating from across the border. India has long accused Pakistan of harboring and supporting terrorist groups operating in Kashmir. These groups, fueled by a complex web of political and ideological motivations, have repeatedly targeted Indian security forces and civilians, plunging the region into a cycle of violence. The Pahalgam attack, with its devastating human cost, has pushed India's patience to the limit. It has also compelled India to re-evaluate its approach to dealing with Pakistan. The attack has underscored the limitations of dialogue and diplomacy in the face of relentless terrorism. In the wake of the Pahalgam attack, India faces a difficult dilemma: how to respond to terrorism without jeopardizing regional stability. The international community has condemned the attack and urged both India and Pakistan to exercise restraint. However, the path to peace remains elusive, overshadowed by deep-seated mistrust and historical grievances. India's response to the Pahalgam attack was swift and decisive. India announced the suspension of the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty, a landmark agreement that has governed the sharing of the Indus River system for over 6 decades. This unprecedented move signaled India's determination to exert pressure on Pakistan and force it to take concrete action against terrorism. The suspension of the treaty is a major escalation in the already strained relations between the two countries. It reflects India's growing frustration with Pakistan's perceived inaction against terrorist groups operating from its soil. By targeting a vital resource like water, India aims to inflict economic pain on Pakistan and compel it to reconsider its support for terrorism. The Indus Waters Treaty, brokered by the World Bank, has long been hailed as a successful example of transboundary water cooperation. It allocates the waters of the 6 rivers of the Indus system between India and Pakistan, with India having control over the eastern rivers, Ravi, Beas and Sutlej, and Pakistan over the western rivers, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab. The treaty also established mechanisms for data sharing and dispute resolution. India's decision to suspend the treaty has raised concerns about its potential impact on regional stability and the livelihoods of millions of people dependent on the Indus River system. It has also triggered a war of words between the two countries, with each accusing the other of violating the treaty's provisions. Pakistan has vehemently condemned India's suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty, calling it a violation of international law and an act of aggression. Pakistan has also accused India of deliberately releasing water into the Jhelum River without prior warning, causing a surge in water levels near Muzaffarabad in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Pakistan claims that India's actions are a deliberate attempt to create a humanitarian crisis in POK and destabilize the region. It has also accused India of using water as a weapon against Pakistan, jeopardizing the livelihoods of millions of people dependent on the Indus River system for irrigation and drinking water. India, however, has denied Pakistan's accusations, stating that it has not violated any provisions of the Indus Waters Treaty. India maintains that it is committed to upholding the treaty, but reserves the right to take appropriate measures to protect its national interests. The exchange of accusations and counter-accusations between India and Pakistan highlights the deep mistrust and hostility that characterize their relationship. It also underscores the challenges of managing shared water resources in a volatile political environment. The dispute over the Jhelum River has further escalated tensions between the two countries, making it even more difficult to find a negotiated solution to the current crisis. It has also raised concerns about the future of the Indus Waters Treaty and the prospects for transboundary water cooperation in the region. The alleged release of water into the Jhelum River by India has triggered a flood alert in Bala, a town located about 40 kilometers from Muzaffarabad in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The rising water levels have sparked panic among local residents, who fear a repeat of the devastating floods that have ravaged the region in the past. Local authorities in POK have declared a state of emergency and are urging residents living in low-lying areas to evacuate to safer grounds. Mosque announcements are being used to warn people about the impending flood threat. The flood alert in POK has further heightened tensions between India and Pakistan. Pakistan has accused India of waging a water war against it, while India maintains that it has not violated any agreements. The situation in POK remains precarious, with the risk of flooding looming large. The international community has expressed concern about the humanitarian situation and urged both India and Pakistan to exercise restraint. The Indus Waters Treaty, signed in 1960, is a testament to the complexities of managing shared water resources between nations locked in conflict. The treaty, brokered by the World Bank, aimed to diffuse tensions between India and Pakistan over the Indus River and its tributaries. It allocated the waters of the 6 rivers of the Indus system, with India having control over the eastern rivers, Ravi, Base and Sutlej, and Pakistan over the western rivers, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab. The treaty, considered a landmark achievement in international water law, established a framework for data sharing, joint inspections, and dispute resolution mechanisms. It recognized the rights and needs of both countries and aimed to ensure the equitable distribution of the Indus waters. For over 6 decades, the Indus Waters Treaty has largely withstood the test of time, surviving wars and diplomatic standoffs between India and Pakistan. However, the recent escalation in tensions, triggered by the Pahalgam attack and India's subsequent suspension of the treaty, has raised serious questions about its future. The treaty's suspension has cast a shadow of uncertainty over the future of water cooperation between the two countries. It has also highlighted the vulnerability of transboundary water agreements to political tensions, particularly in regions grappling with conflict and mistrust. Pakistan, heavily reliant on the Indus River system for its agricultural productivity, faces a looming crisis as India's suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty threatens to disrupt water flow. With approximately 90% of its agriculture dependent on irrigation from the Indus and its tributaries, any disruption could have devastating consequences for Pakistan's food security. The Indus River and its tributaries are the lifeblood of Pakistan's agricultural heartland, Punjab and Sindh provinces. These regions, responsible for a significant portion of the country's wheat, cotton and rice production, are heavily reliant on the predictable flow of the Indus waters for irrigation. India's control over the eastern rivers, while primarily allocated for its use under the treaty, has always been a source of anxiety for Pakistan. The suspension of the treaty has amplified these fears, raising concerns about potential water shortages, particularly during critical cropping seasons. Reduced water availability could lead to a decline in crop yields, jeopardizing the livelihoods of millions of farmers and triggering food shortages. The social and economic consequences of such a scenario could be dire, potentially leading to unrest and instability. The suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty extends beyond geopolitical maneuvering. It carries profound social and ecological implications for communities on both sides of the border. The potential for water scarcity in Pakistan threatens to exacerbate existing inequalities, hitting marginalized communities already grappling with poverty and limited access to resources the hardest. In a region already vulnerable to climate change impacts, such as erratic rainfall patterns and glacial melt, any disruption to the Indus waters could have devastating consequences. Increased competition for scarce water resources could fuel social unrest, pitting communities against each other in a struggle for survival. The ecological balance of the Indus River basin is also under threat. The treaty's suspension could hinder crucial data sharing and joint management efforts, impacting flood control measures and jeopardizing the health of the river ecosystem. The intricate link between water availability, agricultural productivity, and social stability in the Indus River basin cannot be overstated. The suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty threatens to unravel decades of cooperation, pushing the region towards a future of uncertainty and conflict. The suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty has sent ripples of concern through the international community, particularly for the World Bank, the architect of this landmark agreement. The treaty, hailed as a shining example of successful transboundary water cooperation, now stands as a fragile testament to the enduring challenges of diplomacy in the face of deeply rooted conflicts. The World Bank, recognizing the treaty's significance for regional stability, has expressed its willingness to mediate between India and Pakistan. It has urged both countries to engage in dialogue and find a mutually acceptable solution to the current impasse. The international community, aware of the potential for the situation to escalate, has echoed the World Bank's call for restraint and dialogue. The United States, China, and the European Union have all expressed concern and urged India and Pakistan to find a peaceful resolution. The suspension of the treaty serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of international cooperation in managing shared resources. It underscores the need for a rules-based order, particularly when it comes to addressing transboundary water issues, which are likely to become even more pressing in a world grappling with climate change. The road ahead for India and Pakistan in the shadow of the Suspended Indus Waters Treaty remains fraught with uncertainty. The path chosen by both nations will determine not only the fate of the treaty, but also the future of countless lives intertwined with the flow of the Indus River. Dialogue, though challenging in the current climate of mistrust, offers the only viable path toward a sustainable resolution. Both countries must prioritize diplomacy, engage in good faith negotiations, and seek common ground to address their concerns. The international community, particularly nations with leverage over India and Pakistan, have a crucial role to play in facilitating dialogue and de-escalating tensions. They must encourage both sides to return to the negotiating table and uphold the spirit of cooperation that underpinned the Indus Waters Treaty for over 6 decades. The alternative, a descent into a perpetual cycle of accusations and retaliatory actions, would be catastrophic, particularly for a region already grappling with numerous challenges. The human cost of such a scenario is simply too high. The Indus River, once a symbol of shared heritage and cooperation, now stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the urgent need for dialogue and reconciliation. The choices made by India and Pakistan in the coming days and weeks will have lasting consequences, shaping the destiny of millions of people and the future of the entire region. Like and subscribe for more.